Hey guys, welcome back to Home Built, and today I thought it might be time to do another garage tour update on the Home Built garage. So those of you who've been following the videos will have seen that I've been working in this garage now for a few years, and it's a constant evolution. So I thought it was time to do an update again. I know I did do a garage tour probably 12 months or maybe more ago, and because I'm continually tweaking and revising and improving the garage, I thought I would pass on some of those tips and things that I've done, that I've learnt through doing and refining to you guys. So first of all, we'll start off with the actual structure itself. So the garage itself, my garage is 7 meters wide by 12 meters deep by 2.7 meters to the eaves. It might sound like it's huge, and it's great, but I have definitely filled it, and I could definitely still use more space, like everybody could. No matter how big it is, you always want a bit more. So basically, it's an oversized 4-car garage. To give you an idea, a lot of the smaller project homes in Australia now are getting built with a 2-car garage that's 5.5 meters by 5.5 meters, which can sort of just fit 2 small cars in there, but very difficult to get in and out, and there's no room for anything around them. They're quite tight. Whereas I want enough room to be able to park 2 cars and still have room on the side. So as you can see, I've got my bench here, and I can easily park 2 cars here with more sort of stuff on the side. So it does give that extra bit of room around to work. Basically, if you're building a garage, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know, build it as big as you can, because it's never going to be big enough. All right, so I'm going to take you on a bit of a walking tour now and show you what we've got sort of going on in the garage. So first of all, over here next to the door, I've got my charging station. So I've got my batteries, which I like to number all my batteries so I can rotate them. So, you know, I'll use 1 and then 2 and then 3 and then back to 1. Numbering them is a great little tip. Here I've got some cardboard. I actually like keeping big cardboard boxes around. They're quite handy for using to paint things on, or even just lay them on the ground when you're working under a car. So you're sitting on the cardboard instead of the cold concrete is definitely a good thing. I find I've got a creeper, but I never find I use it because I always want to get lower. So just cardboard, I think, is a good tip. Saves you getting filthy and freezing. While I'm here, I need to talk about the hoist. So as you can see, the Rockster is up on the hoist at the moment, and this one is by HAP. And the reason I particularly wanted to go with this hoist is because most of these 2-post hoists are at least 2.8 meters high, and my eaves are only 2.7, and this HAP actually have this 2.7 meter hoist. So even though it is not the highest, the Rockster is as high as it goes now, and even myself at 5'8" will bump my head if I don't duck underneath this, it's still a lot better than working on jack stands. A hoist, I think, is probably one of the best tools and best value for money thing you can get in a workshop. It makes so many jobs easier, and it has got to be the cheapest car storage you are ever going to get for getting an extra car space. Much, much cheaper than building a carport or anything else. Using vertical space is a big tip. Okay, and on the wall beside the shelf, I've got all these hooks that I did originally have used for hanging brooms and things like that, but now I just use it for all my AN line storage. Moving my way around, these little wheel jack dollies are a great thing to be able to jack a car up and move it around the garage sideways or whatever. Makes things much easier. And I've got my nice big toolbox storage. And one of the big tips that I will pass on with this is that I label everything. So even though this is my toolbox, I'm the only one who uses it, it's still easy to go, is it the top drawer? No, the middle drawer? No, it's spanners. No, that spanners are in this one. So that really helps. And even things like this, this is not a pre-made set. This was just a folding box that I cut up to fit into this drawer. And as you can see, go through, different sockets, measuring tools, hammers, dollies, So a toolbox is a great addition, but knowing where things are in it and keeping it organised is definitely a big plus. So moving past the toolbox, I've built a room in this back left corner of the garage, and this is sort of my machining shop, if you like. In behind my toolbox, and I've got this gearbox crane sort of mobile in here. I've got my lathe. That's a huge addition to the garage. It is so good to have a lathe. There's so much extra stuff I can do now. And then, of course, moving around at the same time, I got this very old guillotine, and it just makes my life so much better with all this sheet metal work I do in the garage. Really helps. The bench I've got back here, this is a bench I built when I first built this garage, and I had it the full length. I continually cut and move and change. So I built a shelf, which is pretty terrible. MDF is a terrible thing to make shelves out of because it's continually sort of warp and move, and it's shrunk down, but that's got sort of lathe tools on it, precision measuring tools and stuff in here. Books and some storage, and yeah, there's a bit of junking around the place. This tool I've been using a lot more lately. It is a combination of, it's a hydraulic cutter, so you sort of drill a hole the smaller size, and then it's got a bunch of these different dies that will cut and cut a hole through sheet metal. And then it's also a dimple die set, so putting these in, and it's all with a hydraulic hand pump. Works a treat. And in the similar fashion, a press in the corner. Above me here, which is sort of getting difficult to use now because of how I put the toolbox, but I built this storage rack for storing all of my timber stuff, and I built it my height, so it's just tall enough that I can walk under it and I won't hit my head, but I can reach everything without a ladder. Tough luck if you're taller. It's just built for me. On the back wall of the garage, there's a lot more storage here. So in these cupboards, I have a bunch of sort of my paints and stuff like that. In the middle, I've got sandpapers and sort of mess and cans and rags. And then this cupboard's got all of my box tools. And again, I label everything because there's so many of these boxes that you end up collecting with tools. It's much easier if you just writing on things. It makes it much easier to find what you're looking for. Up above, yeah, there's junk storage. Boxes of parts and bits and pieces that I really should tidy up at some stage. And coming around onto the side here, I've got my 3-in-1 machine that I keep complaining about because it's a pretty terrible machine. It sort of does three things quite badly. It's a guillotine at the bottom here that can't cut anything. The middle here is a brake, which is passable. I mean, it's better than nothing, but it's not great. And then under the top, it's got the roller. Definitely much better than nothing, but really not great. Above that, I have my water trap coming from my air compressors. I've got my air compressors out the back of my shed. I deliberately built another semi-soundproof box for my air compressors out the back, and it makes life so much better having air plumbed in from outside and all the noise is out the back. There's a personnel door going into the spray booth on the side here. There's Harry in there parked at the moment. And next to this, we've got the paint preparation bench, where it's just I mix my paints and keep my all my spray guns and all that sort of stuff are all sitting there. Underneath, I've got all my sort of big cordless tools and jacks and things like that. Moving through this cabinet, which I airbrushed right near the start of my channel. There is a video of me airbrushing this on there. Those who don't know, that's what I did for 13 years. I was an airbrush artist doing cars and Harleys and stuff, and actually back here underneath you can actually see there's a bonnet I airbrushed many years ago that was hanging up in the garage, but I ran out of space. In here, this is a bit of a shambles. This is my electrical cupboard. I did start cleaning it up. I've got a bunch of these boxes, and again, all labelled with individual part boxes so I can sort of know what's in them. I just grab a box out and find what I need relatively quickly. I have a ladder here, right where I need it, so I can pull the ladder out and get up the top, because on top of my booth, I've deliberately built this nice and solid, so there's lots of storage up there for stuff that I don't use very often at all, but it's still very handy. And you can see the air line running down through to a hose reel in the middle of the shop. So that retractable hose reel Makes it very easy to just grab, pull it out, and air is ready at all times. Nice and quick and easy to get to. Again, at a height that I can reach easily, but it's also above my head so that it doesn't get in the way. Everything's built around my height because it's my garage and I'm the only one who uses it. Moving along, sandblasting cabinet, parts washer, and whiteboard. Quite handy things to have just to sort of work out some of the things you need to get doing. A lot of that stuff on the whiteboard I haven't updated in a long time. So underneath these things was another thing to try and save space is I got rid of the stands that these things were sitting on and built a steel rack for my sort of shorter lengths of steel that I can easily get to, just utilizing every bit of space I can, looking up, looking down, look everywhere. Moving around, as you can see, I built this spray booth. It's got its own hose reel in the back corner. It's got ventilation in the roof there, and there's another vent in this top corner here. So this is the air in, this is the air out. Look, it's not the best booth available, but it definitely does the job. I have downlights throughout and LED strip lights around the edges. Again, it's not perfect, but it does the job. And a lot of the back of it is filled with parts and boxes and stuff that I'm going to be using moving forward. But yeah, most of it's just used as storage at the moment. So moving around from the booth, this far wall was again one of the first things I put in, and all of these boxes are just for a lot of home renovation stuff. So you know, see each box is labelled again, tiling, plastering, whatever, and has a lot of the stuff in these boxes ready to use when I need it. In front of that, making use of space, is this falling bandsaw, which is quite handy for cutting reasonably straight bits of stuff. And this linisher I use all the time. This sander is set up, plugged in, ready to go at all times. I use it continually for flattening out pipe work. If I'm building my inlet pipes or exhaust pipes, I can flat them out on the linisher. Quite a handy bit of gear. Moving on from the sander, again, pushed against the side, I've got my MIG welding trolley. I like having this ready to go. I can just pull it out. It's already plugged in with a looped extension cord, so I can drag it anywhere in the garage, ready to go. I am a big advocate of putting things on wheels, and I'm putting more and more stuff on wheels all the time so that you can just easily move it around. Again, you can see here, this is sort of sitting in front of a bunch of these boxes, but because it's on wheels, it's quite easy to get it in and out, but I don't use those boxes very often anymore. So yes, definitely a sort of messy bit of the garage that needs to be tidied up at some stage. All right, so now we're around here at my main workbench. This is the workbench that I use. You've seen me use it in most of my videos, and this is the most used part of the shop, and I am continually refining the work on this bench to try and make it work for me. Everything's a constant evolution in this workshop, so let me go over this quickly. This bench is a solid timber frame that I built a while ago. It's got, I think it's an 18mm thick sheet of plywood as the top of the bench, but and then on top of that I've put 6mm steel plate. Nice and solid. I can bash on this all day. It is rock hard. Hit it with hammers. It's not doing anything. So starting in this corner, I've got this vise. It's a light duty vise, but it's quite handy in the fact that it can rotate around and hold lots of different things. So it's quite handy to hold things, to cut them, or do very light bending, but it's not super tough. So you don't want to bash on things hard, it will break. Not the greatest, but handy as it is. I have a lot of can storage here. I probably shouldn't have cans here because I'm welding here all the time. As a firefighter, I should know better, but that's where they are. That's where they're staying for the time being. I don't do a lot of heavy duty welding on this bench. Most of the heavy welding is done out on the in the workshop. It's just light duty little bits and pieces that I do on this bench. So I'm not overly concerned, but I should know better. Anyway, up higher, I'm like hanging things up. So I've got all my tapes here ready to go. I've got magnets here for welding. Lots of things close, easy to get to. On the bench, just a cup full of pens, punches, old calipers. Old calipers are a really handy thing. If I want to scribe nice even lines and things like that, they're quite handy to use. So just because they don't work anymore and they're not accurate doesn't mean they're not handy. Having flat discs and cutting discs, which I use all the time, right there ready to go, are quite handy. And again, safety gear, having it ready to go all the time is really handy. This thing I absolutely love. So I got sick of losing nuts and bolts and trying to use old hardware, and I found that buying new hardware is not that expensive if you buy it in reasonably large amounts. And I've gone through, I've got M5, M6, M8, M10 and different sizes, and then I've got the nuts and nylock nuts and washers, and everything is all here ready to go. So if I ever need any hardware, it's here, and it's already in the sizes that I use, and I can just go through and just grab a M6 by 20mm bolt. It's right there. If I want to, the nut for it is right here. It's all there ready to go. I know where it is. It's such a good thing having new hardware fresh, readily available. When you're fabricating this stuff all the time, new hardware is a big, big plus. Moving along, this little zip tie holder is really handy because it's got my different size zip ties there ready to go all the time. I need to grab a zip tie, I can just reach and grab it. Really handy. Basic drill press, it would be good to get a better drill press. It's something I definitely need to upgrade at some stage, but it's done the job up to now, and it's quite handy with a bunch of drill bits and pieces, and sort of drop saw storage in the back. And also a lot of my clamps and stuff are hooked over the back in here, so if I'm doing any welding, I've got a bunch of these clamps that are all sort of just hidden in the back here, clipped on, ready to go. So underneath here is well utilised as well. I've got my spare gas bottles in the back for my welding, a bin underneath. Always good to have bins close at hand around the workshop because I'm continually chasing my tail trying to tidy up. As many of you know, I don't work very cleanly, so I do try and periodically go through and tidy up because I sort of work and just make a mess, put tools everywhere, and then gradually have to clean up again. So making things easier to clean up is a big tip. Welding helmet, again, ready to go here. I did have my TIG welder on my welding cart that I was carting around everywhere, and I found that it was a bit of a pain because I realised that I do most of my delicate TIG welding up on the bench here or right next to the bench. So having the TIG welder on a shelf of its own underneath the bench, ready to go, plugged in, it's ready to just switch on it comes. That's the way to have the workshop set up. And same with the plasma. So my plasma cutter is right here, ready to go as well at all times. And then moving on to this end, I've still got my wood rack, again, under a welding bench. I know I probably shouldn't because I'm a firefighter, I should know better, but I use these lumps of wood all the time just for propping things up. I just find that I'm often using pieces of wood and I don't actually burn this stuff anymore. It's generally just extra construction materials for something, to hold something, to prop something up, to make a simple jig. Having bits of timber around is a very handy thing. And I've got this rack here for holding my grinders. Having a range of grinders, I've often wondered why you'd need more than one grinder, but having them ready to go, instead of having to change the head of the grinder to go from a cutting wheel to a flat disc to a wire brush, having a range of grinders all plugged in, ready to go at a moment's notice. So this is in, it's plugged in, it's ready to go, and there's a coiled extension cord ready to pull out. So they're always live, so I don't have to mess around and find an extension cord and plug it in and get it going. Okay, and finally, I thought I'd bring you to my favourite addition to the garage that I've been working on and improving over the last few months. I've been watching a lot of Adam Savage's workshop builds, and he is continually looking at things that he uses the most often need to be the most readily at hand. And what I found is there were a certain amount of tools that I would grab every single time and have them out on the workbench, and then I'd put them all away in my tool chest at the back and then get them out again next time. And it was just frustrating. And I found, particularly with mechanical work, that's what I've set up this trolley for. So it's just a cheap basic trolley that I got that I can cart around the workshop. But I deliberately went through and set it up with the main things that I use all the time. Along the back, I've got a range of screwdrivers, T-bar Allen keys. Coming around this side, I've got a tape measure clipped onto the side. a Stanley knife ready to go. And then I built a sort of a bar, which is a bit like a towel rail that can hold a range of hammers, different pliers. These things are fantastic. So instead of using an adjustable spanner, shifter, whatever you want to call it, this is a similar sort of thing, but it's adjustable at a range of different sizes, and these teeth come through together. So same sort of thing as a shifter, but because you put pressure on it, you're less likely to slip. I find these are as good as a whole set of spanners, and they do so much stuff, and they're narrow enough to get into places, because often you find that a shifter is too fat and wide and can't get in there. I love these things. These things are a fantastic tool. I might put a link in the description. They're a Nipex. I can't remember what they're called, but great tool. Side cutters, air blower for cleaning things up. And generally I leave the top of the tray clear for what I'm working on. So at the moment I've been wiring the Rockster, so I've got a lot of wiring gear and stuff in the top here. But this is generally just used for the stuff that I'm working on at the time, but the rest of the tools are ready to go. And then over on the end here is something I am really happy with, is I've been playing around with my 3D printer and made these little 3D printed holders for these, just my light duty 12 volt tool. So I've got, again, my ratchet, and I need to probably remake this holder here because it's not really in the right spot. I'd prefer to probably have it so that the ratchet sits up like this, because this hanging out is something that I bump my leg on. I've got my Ranger 3/8 inch drive sockets there ready to go straight away, and then again everything's labelled, so because these three tools all look roughly the same, but I have a drill, a impact driver socket, and a hex screwdriver type head thing. These are all here ready to go, and this trolley I can just bring to whatever job I am, where if I'm working in the front of the car, the back of the car, wherever I am, I've got, or even working over on the bench, I can bring it over next to me. I've got all these tools right here ready to go, and when they put away, they're back here. I'm not putting them all the way back in the tool chest and then bringing back out all the time. So the tools that I use most often are here ready to go at all times. Oh, and I've also put myself a little holder here for pens and markers and stuff in the corner. I love this thing. It's a continual evolution, and I'm continually trying to refine it and get it better, but being able to take the most common tools to the job is a huge game changer. I love it. I love this thing. Okay, hopefully you guys got something out of that you can put to use in your own garages. And if you guys have got any suggestions and great tips and things that you guys know about, definitely leave them in the comments below. We're always trying to refine our workspaces and make them more efficient and make them better, and I am definitely all about that. I'm continually evolving this garage, and 12 months time it's probably going to look completely different. I just keep growing and getting better and trying to make things work the way that I work. So all right guys, hope you enjoyed it. Have a good one, and we'll see you next time.